So it's early spring 2021 and I'm back at my syndicate water, which is Golden Gates in Essex. I haven't been here for about 6 months now. And yeah, it feels good to be back. Sort of done a lap, got a feel for the place again, found some fish.
Oh, was that one? You hear that?
Dropped in the swim and hopefully get the rods out and see if we can bag one more before my ticket runs out. So Golden Gates is a syndicate in Essex. It's one that's been on my radar for quite a few years before joining, and I got my ticket in July. Well, I started 1st of July 2018, and yeah, since then it's been awesome. Absolutely loved my time on here. Met some great friends, caught some lovely carp, and it's just sort of one of them lakes. I think the thing that really done it for me was obviously the big one, known as the Bulldozer. It was a 40-pound common. With a few good backup fish as well. But as well as that, you had sort of there's a really big stock of fish in here. I wouldn't like to say how many, but I reckon there's got to be at least 200 fish in here. Sort of, I've had a few repeats, but a lot of the fish you see are the same ones, but then there is a lot that don't get caught as well. But just the sheer quality of the fish, it's such a variation as well between the different strains in here, and it's just good for a bite. You really can build good hits of fish if you get on them and have some real good spot. So yeah, the seasons are quite weird on here. They sort of don't run from April to April like most lakes do. This does have a closed season. So when you actually become a new member, you don't start fishing until July the 1st, whereas all the existing members had sort of 2 weeks before, as they're allowed on from June the 16th. So I sort of thought I was a little bit behind at the start, but I didn't actually end up getting my ticket and fishing until like 2 weeks into July. So I was about a month behind everyone else. And it was, I just remember it being incredibly hot. I think the day that I sort of planned to come down, the Friday before, so 2 days before, came down, had a walk around, it was quite busy. And I'd heard that Gigi did get busy at the weekends, but sort of throughout the week, you could get in a nice swim and have a good chance of some fish. And that was predominantly what I was gonna do, was midweek overnighters. So came down on the Friday before, on the Sunday I was gonna fish, had a walk around, there was quite a few anglers on, went away sort of with the intention I was just gonna come back on the Sunday, slot in where I could, do my first overnighter and get to work. The day's finally here. It's my first session down on Goldens. It's Sunday the 15th of July. I popped down on Friday for a quick walk round, but today I'm actually got the rods in the back and I'm going fishing. So I've quickly just nipped into work to grab some bait. Gonna head down there now. It really is warm today though. It's 9:30 in the morning and it's already over 25 degrees. So it's gonna be a bit of a tricky one, but I'm hoping might be able to get a few taking floaters and get that first fish of the season under the belt. Catch up with you soon. Driving to the lake, it was incredibly hot and all that was going through my head was floaters, floaters, floaters. And I've been told by so many people that they don't eat floaters. And you've heard that, I've heard it so many times on lakes before, and they're sort of some of the lakes where you get the best results on the surface because no one does it because they don't think they like them. So driving down to the lake, all I've got on my mind is floaters. And when I arrived, there was 2 people left from the weekend and they was actually going. And within sort of an hour and a half into my session, there was no one here and I was the only one on the lake, first session. So I've just done a lap of the lake. I've come round to this bay, seen 13, 14 fish, just milling about under the surface, put some mixers out. As you can see just out there, the odd couple are coming in, having a mixer. So, try and get confident. Oh look, they're starting to take them. I'm going to put this camera away, try and get them going properly. Oh, sorry about the camera shake. I'm absolutely shaking. I see some real good fish out there. So yeah, I'm gonna put this away. See if we can get one. I've got one of the big ones in the net tonight. Black eye, man. Let me show you. Oh, mate, I'm pretty sure it's black eye. It's an absolute unit. Such an old fish. Look at that. Off the top. Sunday afternoon. 25 degrees. Oh my God. Yeah, it was a hell of a relief to sort of get the pressure off so quickly. Then having a full night ahead of me as well was awesome. And then yeah, I think I managed another one that next morning as well. A nice 23-pound mirror. And yeah, welcome to Golden Gates. It was absolutely buzzing. So obviously after an amazing first session, I couldn't wait to get back down, get really stuck into things, and I sort of didn't want to put all my eggs in one basket, you know. I wanted to get around the pond, fish different swims, find different areas, different spots, and sort of build a bigger picture of the place. And I caught a few along the way, some nice fish, one called the Snake, which is a really old fish, a few other stockies, had a few blanks here and there, and it was sort of not till around late summer when I sort of decided that I needed to start focusing on somewhere and sort of potentially baiting somewhere going into the autumn. And there was a swim that I hadn't fished called Pole, which was down the first end. And I must say as well, predominantly my first year I spent mainly down the first end. I didn't venture up this end too much. But I decided to fish this swim pole as I found sort of a margin, and it was nice depth to it for a margin, maybe sort of 5.5 foot, and you could wade along the shallow part, and there was a nice sort of big crater off the edge. You could just wade down, drop your rig, and I could keep an eye on it, you know. So every time I'd come, I'd drop a little bait in, and then as I'd leave, I'd put some bait on the spot and just creep through the trees. No one sort of knew I was fishing it, and that turned out to be really productive for me. I had some really nice fish off that, one including golf course mirror, which is one of the A team, and several other fish, you know. And it was sort of, that was starting to formulate my plan going into the autumn.
The last time I spoke to you, I think I had a £25 comment on the bank. Said I could not wait to get back. I'm back. I've done last night. I'm absolutely knackered, which can only mean one thing. It was an eventful night. As soon as I got here, literally spot I caught from last week. I come down during the week, stuck some bait on it. 48 hours later, I've come back and fished, got a rod on the spot. Within 15 minutes, it was away, absolutely buzzing. £22 common, one known as the concerned common, which is about 45 years old. Absolutely made up with that. During the night, I had a little stocky common. And then first up this morning, I've been woken up with one of the lake's true gems, a fish called the Golf Course. Come and check this out. What a beautiful morning. What a result. First light bite. It proper feels like autumn this morning. £31 the Golden Gates mirror. One known as the Golf Course. Buzzing.
So it was now sort of end of September, early October, and Dozer still hadn't been caught, hadn't been seen. And there was a real big carp buzz about the place that it was due. And yeah, sort of a day or two after I pulled off, my mate Brad caught it.
Good morning. I apologise as I've been a little bit quiet on the camera front recently. I've been fishing, but I've been blanking. I think I've done 2 blanks down at Golden's now since I had them couple of commons, and also the Dozer come out. One of them things, I was a night too early. I knew it was going to come out, but to be fair, it couldn't have gone to a better person. One of my good mates, Brad, managed to catch it. So I know he's had a bit of a tough year, and a bit of good karma there for him. I'm really happy for him. £42, obviously spawned out. They didn't spawn that long ago, only sort of 6 weeks ago, so it's lost a bit of weight, but I'm sure that'll put it back on for the autumn.
So as I said, I didn't really start fishing here till mid-July. And before I knew it, summer had been and gone, but I was really happy with the results. Had an awesome start to Golden Gates, several fish under my belt, catching them on different methods, say off the surface, off the bottom, a couple on zigs, and it was GG campaign was well underway. Like, couldn't wait to get back in the autumn, formulate a plan, and really try to get something going. But what I'm gonna do now, I'm gonna head to the van, grab my gear, come back, get the rods out, make a cup of tea, and I'll tell you what happened for the remainder of that year. So that's it, the rods are rocking, and it really does feel like it's business as usual on Golden Gates. Seen a few, a couple under the surface and a few show as well, and there's actually in front of a swim called the Rope, which is one of my favourite swims on the lake, so it would have been mad not to go in here. So yeah, I've sort of opted one on a zig, as I've seen a few under the surface, and as rules permit on here, you are only allowed to fish 1 rod on a zig, and then I've gone for 2 rods on one spot. Spot I've done very well from before. So I haven't fished in this swim, God, it must be for sort of 8-9 months now, and that spot is still there. So yeah, full of confidence. And hopefully it's not going to be too long before one rattles off. So going back to where I left off, it was autumn 2018, and although summer really had been kind to me, sort of worked hard, did manage to get quite a few bites, but it really did start to slow up sort of come start of October. Managed a few more bites from the margin spot, and then I actually had a bit of a break for about 2 or 3 weeks due to trade show and other bits and bobs to do with work. So it was around sort of 10th of November, I think it was, that I came back, sort of blind, hadn't been here for 3 weeks, hadn't had any bait going in the margin spot, but I decided to drop in there as I hadn't seen anything else, and I did manage a nice 30-pound mirror. So yeah, I planned to fish, but I didn't really fish that winter at all, to be honest. I did maybe 5 or 6 nights. My last one was, I think, just after Christmas, and I decided I was going to pull away, go and fish somewhere else for a few months, formulate a plan, and come back and hit it hard in the spring, and that's exactly what I did. Well, it's Sunday the 17th of March, and I'm just approaching the syndicate. First one from Goldens this year. Absolutely made up with that. Scrape a 20-pound common. Hopefully that is the start of things to come this spring. Happy days. Things are looking good. Fingers crossed. I'm gonna chill out, get the kettle on, have some dinner, and hopefully gonna get woken up by a carp. Buzzing. Got one. Not sure which one it is. I know it's one of the gratties. Check this out. Well, it was definitely worth the drive back to Essex last night. It's over 27 pound, absolute incredible carp. I'm blown away, just as I was packing up as well. Get in there. Oh, a lovely old gratty coming through now. A 30-pounder. Well, I said yesterday, I see a lot of fish in that snag. And yeah, it took longer than I thought. Both bites haven't come till this morning, but I've literally just had a double take. Well, an old friend this one. My first fish from Goldens back in July off the surface. I've caught him again this morning. This time he's bigger, just under 39 pound. Can't really complain, can I, though? It's a recapture. Who cares? Tail, mate. Wow. Where it gets its name from, the old floppy tail. What an absolute brilliant start to the Easter weekend. Fish called floppy tail, one that I dearly wanted to catch. I'm absolutely buzzing that I'm holding it. It's one of the fish I really want to catch.
Really?
Are you going to drag?
Yeah. It's massive. The size of its belly.
I said I couldn't believe it hadn't happened again, but it just did. All that hard work today, up and down the trees, repositioning zigs, has finally paid off. And would you believe it, I had the bite while I was setting the adjustable. Crazy, absolutely buzzing. 28.5 pounds of beautiful Gratwick mirror carp. Buzzing. Well, it would have been nice and mission complete, obviously, to catch those of that first year, but having not caught it at the end of April, I wasn't too disheartened. You know, I'd loved my fishing for the year, caught some awesome fish. There was still plenty more to go at, made some great friends as well, and I was eagerly buzzing for June the 16th to come round to get back and crack on with my second year. So it was obviously Dozer that drew me to this lake, and sort of when first investigating, it was apparent that there was loads of other nice fish in here to back it up.
And that's the lovely thing about this lake. As I said earlier, there is always a chance of a bite because there's quite a lot of fish in here, but the variation is incredible, you know. You have got some Simmos in here, you've got some really old strains, you've got some VSs, you've got some Gratwicks. The Gratwick mirrors, you know, they're absolutely stunning. They're sort of upper 20s, low 30-pound mirrors, but they're just absolutely beautiful. So it was awesome to know that I was going to be catching them ones along the way in the pursuit of Dozer. But yeah, just sort of like this one here. Got one called the pound coin fish, this one. Again, really, really old fish. Not sure what strain that is though, to be fair. Got Grant's Common. That's obviously another 40-pound common in here as well that sort of sits under Dozer. Silver, again, absolutely mega. Another 40-pound common, a real old one as well, that one. So this is what I mean by the Gratties, you know. So Gratwicks is like a strain of carp. And it's just, yeah, incredible. Real scaly, another one there. Dozer, that's the photo actually that drew me to Golden Gates. She is mint carp. That's probably, in my opinion, one of the best Gratties in here. Ryan's Gratty. Once a year capture, that one. Never seen that on the bank though. One of the velvets. So as I say, such a variation of carp, you never sort of know what you're going to get when that bite alarm goes off. Obviously hoping that it's going to be Dozers, that's the one we joined for, but yeah, it's never a disappointment when you get one of the other ones in the net, because 9 times out of 10, it's a real banger. Yeah, June the 16th come round, 2019, and it was time to get back and sort of get into my second year. And boy was I lucky, and I definitely got stuck into some of them amazing carp straight from the off.
Absolute carnage. First bite of the morning. What I really wanted to catch. Well spawned out. Fish known as Canterbury. Just over 27 pounds. I'm absolutely made up. What a carp. Second one of the trip. The bite that took a lot longer than I thought it was going to. Yeah, absolutely made up this little fella. Just over 22 pounds. Happy days. Oh mate, I'm absolutely buzzing. Fish known as the Sergeant. A few ounces under 30 pounds, but such a rare one, this fish. I'm absolutely made up. Get in.
Lovely, lovely carp in it.
What a result. Tony's just turned up to do a bit of filming, the baiting pole. He's met me this morning, just got the kettle on, and this one's absolutely ramped off. So as I say, had a really enjoyable summer, catching loads of lovely carp, but sort of autumn was fast approaching, you know, it was sort of getting towards the end of September now, and it was really time to start thinking about to get a plan in place for the autumn to try and maybe target through the colder months. So during my time on Golden Gate, I'd say probably 80% of my bites have come on this presentation. Obviously not the ones that I've caught on zigs and floaters, and yeah, I've caught the fish on the odd troddy, sort of opportunist fishing, casting singles about, but as I said, my tactic to sort of find a nice hard area, apply the bait, and then put this presentation over the top. And to be fair, it couldn't be simpler. Sort of a slip D rig consisting of about 6 inches of skin link, size 4 twister hook, which I sort of really do sharpen up nice and fine, and then a 15mm wafter, and then that's just fished on a helicopter setup where I can adjust this top bead. So some of the spots, although they're clay spots, the clay can be quite soft, so that lead still is penetrating into the clay, and that just allows the rig to sort of move up and down, the lead to find its depth in the debris on the bottom, and then the rig will just lay on top. And I'm a massive advocate of using a bit of PVA foam, and as I mentioned, this is a slow sinking hook bait, so I know when that lead goes in, it's going to go into the bottom, bottom, the rig's going to just sort of sit proud. That foam will melt, and because of the slow sinking hook bait, the whole rig just sort of sits out nice and straight. And as well as that, there is a bit of bird life on here, and sometimes your rigs do get picked up, and I know every time that bait gets picked up, it's just going to reset itself perfectly, waiting for when the carp do come in. I think the reason why I love the Slip D so much, I was shown it probably 6 years ago now. Firstly, it's so easy and simple to tie. And secondly, I just think the mechanics of the rig are awesome. It allows you to fish a waft the bait on the shank of the hook, and then as and when the fish does suck in the D section just blows the bait completely out of the way, leaving the whole hook exposed, ready to sort of nail in their bottom lip. And the hook holds on this rig are just ridiculous. I fish this with a pop-up as well. And then say you've got that little weight on there, and it does just sit ever just so proud of any debris on the bottom if you did put a pop-up on. But yeah, the hook hold's been amazing, you know. And say my first year I had 27 fish, didn't lose a single one, and then going into my second year I don't think I lost one till like my 36th bite. So it's a lot of bites to be had there without losing any fish, and I've just got complete confidence in it. So yeah, so it said this morning, quiet night, nothing happened. I sort of expected it would do. I sort of did have a plan B, and that was today. The sun's been beating on that bank over there all of yesterday afternoon and this morning, and there's a swim over there called the Humps, and as the name suggests, it's got some real big sort of clay humps in the swim. Much shallower water than the rest of the end up here, so I'm going to go and give it a go. Sort of maybe flick, maybe just 2 rods, might put 2 on the bottom, 1 on a zig, see what happens, sort of work the situation out when I get around there, but I think it's my best chance. The lake's getting busy, everyone's been locked up for 4 months, everyone's coming out to do a night, but I'm sort of sitting there, sit back, be quiet, hopefully get a bite. So yeah, let's go, get packed up. So that first summer back at the start of my second year, I was sort of walking around the lake. It was quite busy down the second end, and the first year I spent a lot of my time down the second end, so coming up this end was quite new for me. So sort of decided I was going to focus up this end, and saw maybe 4 or 5 fish, I think it was, that first morning. So decided to set up in the swim called the Rope. And having not actually fished this swim before, sort of had led about as you always do in a new swim. And it was quite apparent there was a hell of a lot of eelgrass weed out there. And I think the fish were sort of holding up in it, you know. There was several signs, sort of backs breaking the water, fish showing, and I managed to find a nice couple of clean areas in amongst the onion weed. Got some rigs positioned, and I think that first session back, as I say, I had 6 fish. So it was apparent they was getting held up in the weed, and I think it was also to do with, during the close season, in the May time, a lot of the snags were taken out. So there was nowhere else sort of really for the fish to hold up. So it was obvious they was using this weed as a sort of security. And they were there in numbers, you know. So I decided to keep the bait going in. The bites sort of kept coming, but then it started to get quite busy up this end. You've got a swim opposite and a swim to the left, and a few other people started to clock on that fish were getting caught, and I think eventually the onion weed just sort of started to die away and then took the fish with it. So this was sort of, I think my first session back was around sort of 20th of June, something like that. And that went all the way through to sort of September, you know. And as I said last night, I did actually catch a sergeant sort of end of September. And Dozer always comes out whenever sergeant's caught. So I was gunning to get back down. And then, as I said, I went to Coventry for the trade show on a Sunday morning. By the time I got there, it had come out from the swim next door. But then after that, really, September, that was end of September. October went away to trade show, and I didn't sort of come back till, I think it was mid-November. And I was real gutted because I wanted to sort of get a plan in place for the autumn, but missing October, in my opinion, is a key month. And I'd come back, I was blind again to the lake, didn't really know what had been happening, didn't know where the fish had been showing, where they'd been getting caught. I'd had no bait going in anywhere for 6 or 7 weeks. And yeah, spent that winter sort of moving around the pond and had no success. I think I ended up on like 20, 25 night blank. So obviously after a very bleak winter, sort of a bit demoralising, but spring was just around the corner. I'd had a real successful spring the previous year, so I was absolutely buzzing to get back down and try and get a sort of a plan started again. I decided to focus on pole, which is one of the swims down the second end of the lake, where you've got that lovely margin spot. I knew as the sort of water was getting warmer, sun was in the sky for a bit longer, it was hitting that margin, sort of the end part of the day, warming that water up, and it used to bring the fish with it. Started to bait that, as well as find another couple of areas in amongst the swim, one tight against the island and one just sort of down to the right in front of me. Kept the bait going in, maybe did 1 or 2 nights, still no joy. And then I turned up, we had a real good weather front come in, it was sort of around 21st of March, I think it was. I was on the way down to Lake, I had 2 nights ahead of me, absolutely buzzing, gunning for it. Turned up at the gate, and then one of the members, Mark, sort of pulled in the gate, shut the gate, walked into his swim to say hello, and he's just looked at me and he's just gone, "I'm sorry, mate." And I just knew instantly, and he apologised because he's had it before, but it's one of them. You can't always choose the fish that picks up your rig. So he was a bit gutted that he'd caught it. I was gutted that it'd come out, but I was here. I had 2 nights left of me, and little was I to know that was actually my last 2 nights of that season, as Boris put us all into a national lockdown. We wasn't allowed to go fishing. The baited spot had just started to kick off, so I had 2 bites that night. But then, as I say, Dozer had come out. I had to go home. It was game over, and it was time then. I didn't think I was going to be having to rejoin for my 3rd season, but as the lake shuts for a close season at the end of April, it wouldn't have been again till mid-June when I was able to fish. So I had to rejoin for my 3rd season, and then it really was all systems go. So obviously, like every carp angler during the lockdown, we was absolutely itching to get out fishing. And although we was allowed to go again, I think it was around mid-May time, as I said previously, GG has a close season, so I wasn't actually able to come back until June the 16th. But throughout lockdown, you know, all I'm doing is thinking about Golden Gates. I didn't think I was going to have to be going into my 3rd season. I was really confident the plan I'd sort of formulated, I was going to catch it in the spring. And like I say, I was close, but sort of I didn't want to be going into a 4th year, and I sort of wanted to get it done and dusted. So all that I could think of was the rope swim up the 2nd end and that onion weed, and how it grew in abundance the 1st year. Like, they were here in numbers. I was sure if it was going to grow like that again, it was going to be a repeat of the year previous. So June 16th come round, but I think it was actually the 22nd, 23rd that I was able to get back. And I decided that I was just going to go hard on the bait, up in the rope swim, literally making sure religiously every 2 or 3 days I was putting a bucket of bait in the swim across 2 spots, and they were 2 spots that I'd fished the year previous. So I got back, 1st session down, and it was actually, I don't even think I managed to get a bottom rod out first of all, because there was a few fish sort of milling about, and I nicked one on a float within 10 minutes, so that was absolutely awesome. Straight back in amongst GG fish. And yeah, sort of then played around on floaters for a bit, couldn't get another one, decided it was time to get the rods out for the night, and thankfully cast out to the 2 spots I fished the year previous, and they were both still there. Nowhere near as clean as they were. Obviously, they've had the autumn, the winter, they've covered over a little bit, but I knew before long, with a hell of a lot of bait on them that I was planning to give them, they would soon be absolutely polished again. Well, I've literally just got down to do an overnighter. Not many people here at all. There's one up this end. I don't know where they are. Walked into the first swim rope where I was fishing the other day. There's a few milling about. Run to the van, got the surface gear, a few pouches of mixers. And we've got one in the back already. First cast as well. It's a lovely, lovely gratwick. Perfect way to open my Golden Gates 2021 season. Lovely £20 gratwick mirror off the surface. Happy days. So I think I finished on sort of that one off the surface and then another one off the bottom that next morning. It was time to pack up and go to work, but before I left, I put a hell of a lot of bait in, as I knew a couple of days later I was back with the lads to film the 24 session for Nash YouTube channel. Got back down for that session, dropped in the rope swim again, luckily there was no one in it, rods on the spots, and yeah, all hell broke loose that session. I think I had 6 fish, and I knew that this was going to be the way forward, you know, keeping the bait going in. They're already here in this weed. If I can keep them here with the bait as well, there's sort of no reason for them to drift off anywhere else. And the weed was savage, you know, it was every sort of fish I was hooking, it was getting weeded up, and you speak to some of the other anglers that fish maybe the swim opposite or another one up, and everyone was talking about how weedy this end was this year. It was, compared to the year previous, it was even weedier. And I think it sort of put quite a lot of people off. So it was nice to sort of get the rods out in here, I could leave, putting a lot of bait in, sort of knowing no one was going to come back in. And I did sort of try and keep a few catches on the quiet. I don't really like doing it sometimes because I do feel bad, but it had gone on too long, you know. It was my 3rd year. I had to catch Dozer. I felt so close the spring previous, the year previous. It was just, yeah, it was going to happen this year. I was making it happen. The end of that 24 was bittersweet really. I'd woke up in the morning, I'd have a lovely 25-pound mirror, sort of finished off the session nicely. I think I had 3 hours left to go. I was just about to redo one of my zig rods, and then out of nowhere, 2 or 3 fish, amongst all that eelgrass weed, they started spawning. And I think it must have been like the 4th or 5th time they'd spawned. Obviously you have a close season, they spawn then. They had a little go, I think, just leading up to when it opened. A few other fish would spawn in areas. There's quite a lot of fish in here, and obviously they don't all spawn at different times. But I was so gutted, even though I'd sort of had 9 bites my first 2 sessions back, I sort of felt like my plan had failed, as Dozer had been caught and I wasn't the one to catch it, and my plan didn't work. So yeah, I was just genuinely gutted. Just coming into the last evening now, sort of moved round to a swim called the Humps, opposite as to where I was earlier and for last night. Just sort of tried to keep disturbance to a minimum, used sort of 2 troddies, just flicked them out sort of quite close in and put another on the zig out to the left. Yeah, just sort of gonna sit back now, chill out, enjoy the evening. And yeah, I reckon I've got a better chance tonight than I did last night, so hopefully a carp by the morning. Although Dozer had been out, it wasn't going to stop me, you know. I planned to fish hard. I told Mrs. Frankie that I was going to be fishing 3 nights a week, just because I felt like it was going to happen. Although it had been caught, as I say, there was something telling me that I was going to catch it, like this was the time to catch it. I'd planned to do this. I'd planned to bait the rope, fish hard next to the weed. Every time I got down to fish, they were there. It was around sort of start of July and I come down to fish, see quite a few fish in amongst the swim. Got the rods out on the spots, and then I had Sergeant, and so everything sort of started aligning. It had been caught, there was a moon phase coming up, I'd caught Sergeant, and as I say before, every time Sergeant had been caught, Dozer would come out. But the only thing was, it had never come out the same swim that Sergeant had been caught from. So there's me now sort of in 2 minds, thinking I've got this prepated swim going, I've had a hell of a lot of bites from it, I think I'm going to catch Dozer from it, because it does sometimes tend to come at the end of sort of someone's baiting campaign. It does tend to get caught in a single. It's such a random fish, but this was the plan that I was going in with, and this is what I was going to stick to. But this threw me. I was in 2 minds. I'd caught Sergeant out of my baited swim, but it had never been caught. Dozer had then never come from the same swim a couple of days later. So I decided to stick with my guns, and I came back, not the next night, but the night after, to fish in the rope, get back on the bait. I'd give him a big bucket of bait before I left that night, 2 days before. And I got down, drive up to the gate, looked straight down, you can see the ropes were in from the top car bark, and there was no bivvy in there, buzzing. Like, I was going for it, all guns blazing. Remember, barring straight to the swim, didn't even come for a walk round, got in there, and I looked out across all of sort of the eelgrass weed, and I didn't see a single carp. And I was just like, just couldn't believe it. Like, I hadn't seen a single fish. Every session I'd done that year, when coming to bait, when coming to fish, I'd seen fish in that area, in amongst that eelgrass weed, and there just wasn't any there. And I stood there for sort of 20 minutes, half hour, looking, didn't see anything. And I just decided, you know what, I've got nothing to lose. Like, I'm going for it. I've been baiting this swim. So I got 2 rods out on one spot, and then fished a zig off to the left. You know, I was so confident that night that I was going to catch Dozer.
Yeah, Sergeant's been caught, and usually, well, more often than not, Dozer's not far behind, so it's definitely coming out. It's coming out in the next few days, hopefully tonight. Can't get back till probably Monday, but yeah, it's going to happen tonight, hopefully.
So I didn't actually sleep very well that night. I didn't know if I'd done the right thing, if sort of fishing in the swim where I hadn't seen any carp was the right way to go. Although I knew the bait was there, it had been getting eaten, the spots were absolutely polished. Or should I have gone somewhere else where I'd seen carp that evening? Should I have moved on to them? But I decided to stick to my guns. So after a pretty sleepless night, I woke up about 6:15 next morning, just sort of looking out to the rods, and it hadn't happened.
but I was still hopeful, kind of, because I'd sort of had bites around sort of 6:30ish. So I sort of swung the legs out of bed, made a cup of tea, sat there. The morning just went on and on and on. It got to about sort of 7:15 and it hadn't happened, and I just thought, that's it, it's blown, absolutely blown. Looked out to the spot, and sort of definitely that time of year, they do love a fizz on here. And where I was using the grub around mix, you'd sort of see in the mornings, if you hadn't had a bite, you could look out to the spot, and 9 times out of 10, if they'd been on you, you could see sort of where they'd been fizzing or it actually fizzing live. Nothing, couldn't believe it. I remember just turning round, sitting back down in the bivvy, and then out of nowhere, the middle rods just give out a couple of beeps, and sort of the reel, where I was fishing quite sort of locked up, the reel sort of jolted forward towards the buzzer. That's a bite, obviously. Jumped in the wader, sort of picked up the rod, and straight away, it's locked in load of the eelgrass. I've just kept steady pressure. It's just come across, nice and slow. I didn't really, although it was bizarre, because although I'd been thinking a hell of a lot about Dozer, at not one point from picking up that rod did I think I was playing it. It didn't feel like a big fish, it was in the weed. And then I remember there's a sort of a big snag to the right hand side of the rope swim in between rope and mud, and it sort of just started kiting, and I could see all the weed on the line, and it was sort of slowly kiting. And I've managed to turn it before it hit the snag, and it's come up, and then its tail's just come out of the water, and I just knew instantly when it was. The tail was huge. There's 3 big commons in here, but Dozer by far has got the biggest tail. And I just knew instantly from that moment on, I was playing Dozer. And then sort of managed to turn it away, as I say. It's come up, got it in the net. Absolutely, but I just didn't know what to feel at that moment.
Well, I called it last night when I said Dozer was going to come out, and it's in the bottom of my landing net.
I am on cloud 9, mate.
There she is. Oh my God. Oh my God. What's just happened?
Everything could have aligned so perfectly. I'd called it the night before. I remember even talking to my mate Nigel Woodcock, who's one of our sales reps, and he actually said to me on the way up, we were chatting, and he said, "You've not caught that bloody fish yet?" I said, "Mate, I know," and he was like, "Well, ring me in the morning as soon as you have it." And I remember I was sort of waiting for Charlie to get, he only lives down the road, so he's come flying down, waiting for him to get. I rung Nigel, and he just instantly started laughing as soon as he said he'd seen my name ringing him, and he just knew, just started laughing. He said, "You've got it in the net, haven't you?" And I was like, "Yeah." So it was meant to be. It was written in the stars to catch it that week, and a massive weight as well, 45 pound. Yeah, buzzing. One of probably my most enjoyable campaign to date by far.
Well, it actually happened. I could not believe it. Just when I thought it wasn't gonna. An hour to reel in and get to work. Mission complete. Dozer, bang on 45. I am so buzzing.
That middle rod tore off, 2 on the spot. Oh, I don't even know what to say. I don't even know what to say. Swim carnage, baldy's about. I'm wet.
Wetter than a not's pocket. Half naked. Mission complete. 16th of July. Job done. Oh, mate.
I love this place. I'm shaking so much, the camera's shaking.
It's always that moment, isn't it, when you get your target fish in the net, and then it's sort of, you're buzzing because you've caught your target, but then it's also the end. What you set out to do at the start has now come to an end, and it's mission accomplished. Knowing that usually knowing that that's it, you're not going to come back to the lake. But I caught it so early. I'd literally paid for my ticket, and then within 3.5 weeks I'd caught it. And I'm getting married next year. I didn't have a lot of time I just didn't have time to find another ticket, buy another ticket, get invested somewhere else. And I didn't want to. I'd planned to fish Golden Gates for that year, and with 2 other backup 40 pound commons that I still hadn't caught, you'd be stupid not to, I think, although it was Dozer was the one I wanted. So I haven't managed to catch one of those. I think I've done 8 nights since I caught Dozer on here. Just sort of slipped in after work, and I've had a few nice ones since then, but this is tonight my last night on GG. And yeah, it's sad, man. It's really, really sad. I think God knows how many nights I've done on here. Probably again 90 odd nights, I guess, something like that. I'd have to tally it up, but it's been worth it. I've loved every single night. And I think the main thing for me, although it was mission accomplished catching Dozer, I learned so much. I've learned so much fishing here, just in terms of just fishing. I've never really fished properly before, and this is actually quite surprising. I've always been a predominant boilie angler, and I fish with a bit of particles here and there, but sort of this 3rd year on here, I decided I was going to go out and out particle and fishing really, really tight as I could, 2, sometimes 3 rods on a spot. And I think because the sheer amount of fishing here, it started to work and build in them areas. So I've learned, yeah, just the way they feed on the surface is different to lakes I've fished before. Crazy lake. And I've loved every minute of it. I really, really have. So to get one more fish to say goodbye to the place would be awesome. I came back to the place quite blind, you know, I haven't been here in sort of 6 months, so might be asking a bit much to catch one during March, having not seen the place for a while, but who knows, I'm hopeful, and yeah, hopefully it will be the perfect ending to a perfect campaign.
Oh, get in there.
Yes.
Get in there.
Yes.
Get in there.
Really.
Get in.
Doesn't feel like.
Get in there, boy! You done it, mate. I've been in the lake, mate. Yeah, swimming. I've been swimming, boy! Get in, mate. I'm so happy, man. 45 on the nose. 45. 45.